continue the fight against voter suppression. And what a time we are living in that we must once again fight for the right to vote. Tonight, you will hear from some wonderful, great activists, state legislators, community persons who are involved in this struggle. So we know tonight that you have joined us. You're going to be enlightened with new information, education, but most importantly, strategies for action. What do we do now? Where do we go from here? At the end of this forum, you will have some direction. To open us in prayer this evening is the senior pastor, Reverend Vandy Simmons of Antioch AME Church in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Reverend Simmons.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this day. It is the day that you have made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. Oh God, right now we just welcome your Holy Spirit to guide, lead, and direct us, oh God, as we again find ourselves fighting for justice, fighting for our rights. We thank you for the collaboration of New Bethel and Antioch coming together with their social action committees and ministries, oh God. And God, we call on many other partners and people of goodwill to work for the common good for all, oh God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And thank you, Reverend Simmons. I want to thank our pastor of New Bethel AME Church, Pastor Will Thomas Jr. I want to thank our Bishop, Reginald Jackson, for his leadership, activist leadership, that is so critical at such a time as this. Because this is Black History Month, but for us as African Methodist Episcopal members, Black persons all over the diaspora, we celebrate Black history year round. But we have one of our own, Sister Carol James, a member of New Bethel AME and the president of the Atlanta East District of the AME Church's lay organization, who has been sharing Black History Month information every day of this month. And I've asked her to share a Black History moment with us this evening. Sister Carol James.
Sister Cheryl Dozier, thank you so very much. And to the rest of the panel, good evening. For this Black History moment, I want to share with you the story of Reverend Richard Harvey Kane, who was born April 12, 1825 in Greenbrier County, Virginia. He was raised in Gallipolis, Ohio, a free state where he was allowed to read and write. He attended Wilberforce University and attended Divinity School in Hannibal, Missouri. He was a minister, abolitionist, and served in the United States House of Representatives for South Carolina twice, from 1873 to 1875, and then again 1877 to 1879. After the Civil War, he was appointed by Bishop Daniel Payne as a missionary of the African Methodist Episcopal Church in South Carolina. He was also one of the founders of Lincolnville. Lincolnville was a town founded in 1867 by 7 African-American men who left their former home of Charleston to escape racial discrimination. The name Lincolnville was given to the settlement in honor of Abraham Lincoln. In 1844, he was licensed to preach for the Methodist Episcopal Church. In 1848, frustrated by the segregationist policies of the Methodists, he joined the African Methodist Episcopal Church. In 1862, he was ordained as an elder in the AME Church. In 1865, after the Civil War, he moved to Charleston, South Carolina, as superintendent of AME missions and presided over the Emmanuel Church, which is now known as Mother Emanuel AME. He became active in politics, serving as a delegate to the State Constitutional Convention in 1868. He represented Charleston County in the South Carolina Senate from 1868 to 1872. He was elected as a Republican to the 43rd United States Congress in a newly created at-large district. He was on the Committee for Agriculture, but he really focused on the Civil Rights Bill, which eventually passed in its diluted form in 1875. In 1880, he became the 14th elected and consecrated bishop in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And he served in a district that was comprised of Louisiana and Texas. Now, I shared this information with you to show you that the AME Church and its leadership has had long involvement in politics, which continues today. Let me just share just a few bits of information with you. African Americans are currently 13.4% of the US population. Of the current 435 members of the US House of Representatives serving in Congress, 52 are African American. That's only 8.4%. Of the current 50 members of the US Senate, only 3 or 1.6% are African Americans. So these are really dismal numbers. And that means that African Americans are underrepresented in our nation's highest government. If we want real change, then we have to do the work. We need to get African Americans elected to public office. We have several who are on this panel tonight, and I am happy that they are. All I can say to you is Ashe.
Thank you so much, Sister James. That was just such great information. I hope everybody was able to receive it. And there is so much information that we want to be able to share with you this evening. Brother Michael Walker, at this time, who is the president of New Bethel AME's lay organization, will you share at this time?
Thank you, Sister Cheryl. The African Methodist Episcopal Church was founded in 1787 by Richard Allen, its first bishop. It was the first major religious denomination in the Western world that had its origin based on sociological and theological beliefs and differences. It rejected the negative theological interpretations which rendered persons of African descent second-class citizens. The church was born in protest of slavery, against dehumanization of African people brought to the American continent as labor. The first civil rights movement began with the founding of the AME Church. The second civil rights movement began in 1955 when Rosa Parks, a lifelong AME, refused to give up her bus seat in Montgomery, Alabama. The fight has continued through other AMEs such as A. Philip Randolph, Benjamin Banneker, Bridget Mason, Roy Wilkins, Vernon Jordan, Bishop Cassius Ransom, and Reverend Dr. Kane Solomon DuPont. The AME Social Action Commission is the social justice arm of the AME Church. Its work is representative of the ongoing fight for civil rights and social justice in the world, an ongoing effort to uplift and educate throughout all its endeavors. Social action is basic to ministry in African Methodism. We are here tonight to discuss efforts by Republicans to suppress Blacks and people of color voting rights. Bishop Reginald T. Jackson, the 6th Episcopal District Prelate, in an AJC opinion on January 23rd, stated it best. He said, "This month, the 2021 session of the Georgia General Assembly began, and some Republicans have already announced their intentions to submit legislation to change Georgia's voting laws. Specifically, they have called to dramatically minimize absentee voting and limit ballot boxes. These elected leaders want to now change Georgia laws to reduce voter fraud and restore the people's confidence in our elections integrity. This claim is based on a false and premeditated narrative that holds no factual or legal truth. To begin this work, it is incumbent that Republican legislatures, those who support this new voter suppression, and even those who choose just to remain silent, admit the truth. These proposed changes are not because of voter fraud. There has been no evidence of voter fraud in the November or runoff elections. Let's also remember it was a Republican-controlled General Assembly that passed the current law under the guise of wanting to make it easier for more people to vote. This evening, we will hear what each of us can do to help fight the enactment of these proposed legislation.
Thank you so much, Brother Michael, and that was very great information to share. At this time, I am going to introduce our moderator for this evening. Sister Marlene Taylor Crawford is with us. She is the former chair and as well as co-chair of the Social Action Commission. She is the president of the United Ebony Society of Gwinnett County. She is very active in the Gwinnett community. She is an educator and she is committed to the struggle. And tonight she is going to lead us in our discussion this evening and introduce our panelists.
Thank you so much, Sister Cheryl. And I want to certainly thank everyone for joining us this evening. You could have certainly been somewhere else, but thank you for being here. So as we know, there are historic Democratic Party wins across the country and state of Georgia, thanks to the efforts of the Black church, organizations, students, and others who helped to mobilize our Georgia citizens to cast their vote. And this is only a handful of highly successful efforts. Now we are fighting the backlash. This is evident in several intentional and aggressive bills proposed to suppress the vote under the guise of securing the vote, updating and modernizing the system. In other words, the false claims about voter fraud has led to proposed Georgia legislation by Republican lawmakers. If passed, this will increase barriers for people to exercise their right to vote. Now, this is not just evident on the state level, but some members of our Board of Voter Registrations and Elections in various counties are advocating for decreasing funding, lessening the number of voting sites and hours of early voting, removing drop boxes, and changes to requesting absentee ballot, etc. We will literally go back to the days of Jim Crow if we do not fight for voting rights. This must be done not only when there is an election. We cannot become complacent or sit back and expect that it will all work itself out because other people are going to do the work. So this is certainly an ongoing fight, and we will provide you with valuable tools to help you through this panel discussion. We have definitely esteemed panelists this evening. So we have to do the work and we have to do it immediately. So currently there are 8, at least, we're going to discuss, at least 8 of the bills, but as of this evening, there are over 40 Senate bills being proposed to suppress the vote. So without further ado, I would love to introduce one of our many esteemed panelists that are here this evening. I would like to introduce State Senator Tanya Anderson. She was first elected to the Georgia State Senate to represent Georgia's 43rd Senate District in 2016, after serving as state representative for House District 92. Her district includes parts of DeKalb, Rockdale, and Newton counties. She began her elected public service as a city council member for the city of Lithonia from 2006 to 2008, then as mayor from 2008 to 2011. Senator Anderson currently serves as the chair of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus and as secretary of the Senate Special Judiciary Committee. She's also a member of the Senate Economic Development and Tourism, Regulated Industries and Utilities, Reapportionment, Redistricting, Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Overview Committee, Veterans, Military, Homeland Security Committees, and there are so many. It's unbelievable what I'm reading here. Senator Anderson retired in 2012 from the United States Air Force Reserve after more than 21 honorable years of service and continues to volunteer and advocate for veteran services. Senator Anderson is an ordained minister and is very active in her church. Without further ado, let us welcome Senator Tanya Anderson.
Thank you, Ms. Marlene. Thank you to my AME family, to everyone on the line. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here with you tonight. I'm delighted to serve, and we know everybody says to whom much is given, much is required, but it also comes with good stewardship. And I am beyond proud to serve, but I have to say that leading the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus is going to be so very different than what you have seen in the past. It is going to be, we are going to be intentional. We are pushing back against anything that pushes against us. Equity and justice is our first name. And what you see is a combination of House and Senate bills. And I'm a preacher, but I'm not gonna preach tonight. But Paul said we're hard pressed on every side, crushed down, but not destroyed. And we will not be destroyed. We will not be destroyed. We will walk through the fire. We will walk through the flood. We won't smell like smoke, and we won't come out, and we won't drown. But these bills, a combination of House and Senate bills. I mean, and just introduce some more this week. So 41 bills to suppress our vote, to attack our voting rights, to continue to suppress and oppress, and not just, they're blatant with it now. And it's a retaliation move. It is all a move out of having just lost, as you said, Ms. Marlene, having just lost this general election and the Senate runoff. And what I see is not just, I mean, legislators, Republican legislators that is, but as you said, they are now trying to take control of who is on the Board of Elections. It is an all-right assault and attack on our humanity, on our voting rights, on just governance, period. And so what we are seeing is that our strategy, or their strategy rather, is to strip us, and our strategy is to challenge it and to push back and to stop it in its tracks. Folks have said, all across the United States. Yes, Georgia saved the world. We did. By the grace of God, we saved the world. The fact that we came out to the polls in record numbers, both elections, the regular general election and the runoff, we saved the world. But that did not come without a price. It came with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It came with a few lawsuits, about 5, I think. And we demanded to create a space or demand that our voices were heard. We will do the same thing with this anti-voting and this voter suppression legislation. We will do the same thing. And we have community partners like the NAACP, state levels, as well as our local county. We have partners in Fair Fight. We have partners in social justice organizations and civic organizations, D9, and we have partners across the state of Georgia. And so the Legislative Black Caucus, we're fighting and holding it down. Don't think that we aren't, because we are. One of the things that I've noticed is, and I forgot to tell you this part, but I was born and raised AME in the 11th Episcopal District. I just recently did a ancestry and pulled up my grandfather's name. My dad's maybe great-great-grandfather. He's like my 3rd or 4th great-grandfather. And his picture didn't come up, but the picture of our church, our AME church, came up. So I'm probably 7th or 8th generation, but one thing I learned in AME church is to first be educated, 2, to be an advocate, 3, to stand up for those that are the least, the lost, the left out, the looked over, all of that, and still be a champion. And so what is in me is in me. I can't remove it. It's there. So your Black Caucus will continue to fight. We are 70 members strong, the largest Black caucus in these United States. And because all eyes are on Georgia, we are going to make you proud of us. This legislation will also, that's been introduced by Republicans. We have now a policy committee that will counteract that, the legislation that they presented. We have partnered with attorneys, and Sister Rhonda is now first to hear this. Well, I'm live, so everybody here is hearing it now. But we're partnering in that arena so that our strategy is strong, and it's very focused. One of the things that is happening with this legislation is that the hearings are at 7 a.m. in the morning. And yes, and it is to wear you down, to wear you out, but we are not tired, we are not weary, we are expecting to see the fruit of our labor. But this legislation is being presented, early in the morning when you've been out in committees all night, which is why I was getting on at that time, because one committee just lasted so long. But to require an additional a form of ID is almost like Ms. Marlene creating a situation again of oppression, because most people don't have 2 forms of ID. If you are 18 years old and you live with your parents, what other ID do you have? They want a utility bill. Well, an 18-year-old wouldn't have that. A 17-and-a-half-year-old wouldn't have that. But this is legislation that we are going to fight until the end. So I'm going to go over some specific bill numbers, and I'm not going to hold long because I know my sister Rhonda has to come forth. So I talked about the additional voter ID. They are trying to remove the drop boxes. Legislation to remove all of the drop boxes, which counties purchased. The counties purchased these drop boxes. So now you're saying, oh, they cost too much. Well, the drop boxes are secure, and they work. It worked. We won, and this is the retaliation for us winning. winning Georgia and flipping Georgia blue. The automatic voter registration. They want to restrict that. And this is a law that is in a lot of states. So it's not like Georgia is just so isolated well, some laws they are, but in our voting requirements, and it's not that they haven't heard of it. The thing is, they introduced it, implemented it, and as long as it was working for them, Republicans, it was okay. They presented these machines, new voting machines. We pushed back. They presented them, we pushed back. They kept saying, no, we got to have these machines. We got to have these machines. They presented the machines, we kept pushing back. They finally pushed and they won. So we beat them at their own game. And there's nothing wrong with the machines. They work just fine, but they lost. There was no way that they could get around losing because we were focused. Then there's a law, Senate Bill 71, to restrict absentee voting. Totally eliminated. It would end the no excuse absentee mail voting. Instead of mail voting, they're actually trying to require people to be physically absent in order to request an absentee ballot. So if you can get to the polls, unless you're over 75 or there's a risk of some type of safety, then they are requiring that you vote in person. The problem is that transportation could be a problem. We can overcome that. Every barrier that has been set this past election, we overcame. This is the one bill, Senate Bill 73, is the one that I think bothers me just as much as all of the others. All of them bother me. But this will ban third-party absentee ballot applications. That means that the NAACP can't send you an application. America Votes can't send you an application. Any third party or nonprofit organization, this Senate Bill 73 will ban third party absentee applications. They said, oh, it was too many. Well, it was too many for you, but it wasn't too many for the people who voted. And so this bill, Senate Bill 73, is very bothersome because it bans third-party absentee ballots being sent to you. And I did say that the state wanted to. Let me give you the bill number. Senate Bill 89. This legislation will remove and replace county elections superintendents.
Would you like us to put the bills up? Hi, Senator Anderson.
Hi, Ms. Dr. Dozier.
It's good to see you. Do you want us to put the bills up? We have a copy.
Sure, you can, or I can go back after I'm done and put them in the chat. It's up to you.
Okay.
All right. And so this would allow the state pretty much to take over, and they always talk about local control, and that's when it's convenient, for them to say local control until they want to take over. And so this bill would allow for the state elections board. Okay, thank you. For the state elections board to identify county election superintendents, and they're targeting, they're targeting Black and Brown communities altogether. The fact that Henry County, Gwinnett County, and Cobb County turned blue was problematic.
Yes.
I won't take any more time.
All right.
We'll wait. I'll wait for questions But I'll yield. Miss Marlene, thank you so much for that wonderful
Thank you
introduction as
so
well.
much. That was extremely informative, and we are just so excited to hear from the other panelists. So thank you once again. So at this time, I would like to introduce State Representative, and I just love saying that before the name, Rhonda Taylor, who was recently elected, and she represents the citizens of House District 91, which includes portions of DeKalb and Rockdale counties. She was elected to the Georgia House of Representatives in 2020, and she is a resident of Conyers, Georgia, and is a faithful member in leadership at Antioch AME Church in Stone Mountain, where she chairs the Social Action Ministry and serves as the president of the AME Atlanta East District Social Action Ministry. State Representative Taylor has extensive community involvement, which spans more than 30 plus years. Of course, we don't believe that looking at her. Volunteering for various organizations, garnering the reputation as a community advocate. Thank you, State Representative Rhonda Taylor.
And thank you, Miss Marlene, and thank all of my AMEs and my AME family. And for those of you who are out there, I can just kind of echo what Senator Anderson has said, and I'm going to approach it from a different perspective. She's been down there, so she kind of knows what she's working with. I'm coming in like, what? Theresa. So I'm trying to balance the whole thing because, you know, I'm an action person, and so it's a little difficult, but I'm hanging tough. On the House side, we do have some of the same bills. If you, overall, my perspective, and Senator Anderson, you can kind of chime in as well. I get the impression that they're running over each other, trying to outdo each other on a bill in order to cater to those that are pushing them to do this legislation. But we have a lot of the same bills mimicking over in the House. So one of the ones that new just came up, I'm not sure if it's gone public yet or not, is the one that's dealing with the DA, the Fulton County DA, where they dropped a bill last night at the last minute saying that they're going to prohibit DAs from being able to interfere with that so they can stop her from being able to do her job to investigate former President Trump. So it's almost like happening real time. I know we were at the first set of bills at the beginning of this week. We thought we were safe on Fulton County's mobile voting. And then yesterday evening, we went to the policy meeting. They had dropped a bill last night. The one thing that I will say is that I've been following ACLU, who has been doing a fantastic job on covering the bills and following the bills. And what they're sharing with us is the carelessness in which these bills are being written, and sometimes without even regard to the existing laws. So I'm trying to hold on to that as a form of a little bit of optimism at that, where there is some hope still alive. But it is difficult to be there and to watch what's happening, and because I'm not familiar with it. So, you know, just you have to kind of work with me on this one here, but it's very difficult. House Bill 162 I think it was Glenn County that came over on Tuesday that we voted on, that started this roller coaster ride with the board of commissioners choosing the board of the election members as well as the supervisors. That is a very scary bill for me, because that's going to take every county that has a chairman or a board that is predominantly Republican, that gives them the power to create whatever kind of elections board and election staff that they want to create in that particular district or county. That is the biggest concern for me, aside from the other ones. But I'm going to pause and we'll just kind of have an open dialogue, because I'm infuriated. So I have to breathe. And just listening to Senator Anderson talk about it, and I'm watching President Theresa Hardy over there, and I'm like, y'all, I'm trying to stay balanced here, and we're all about to burst. So we'll just kind of just go with the flow, and I'll open it up for questions as you lead, Marlene. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for keeping it real. And trust me, we have the same sentiments here. So at this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Rhonda Taylor, and she is the Vice Chairwoman of the Gwinnett County Board of Registrations and Elections. Dr. Taylor has over 23 years of experience as an administrator in public education. She has worked in South Carolina and Georgia as a counselor, assistant principal, director of early childhood development, and principal. In addition, she worked 15 years in the corporate sector as a director of human resource services and has served as vice chair of the Board of Trustees for the Gwinnett County Public Library. So without further ado, Dr. Rhonda Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has really been enlightening, and learning as everyone is speaking, because all of these bills and all of what's happening right now is just an ongoing moving target. But first of all, I do want to thank Marlene Taylor Crawford and Dr. Cheryl Davenport Dozier for even inviting me to participate and share in this esteemed panel. And it's a really, really great opportunity for me to get to see some great, wonderful people. Just a little background, a couple of years ago, well, I guess it's a couple of years now, as Marlene has said, I'm more an educator. That's my background. I'm not a politician. I retired from Gwinnett County Public Schools about 5 years ago as a principal. And because of my concerns with the education system, and especially here in Gwinnett with so much disproportionality and a lot of other things that were going on, I decided that I was going to run for the school board. And, you know, what better way to have an impact than to be a participant and to serve. And as you all have been doing, as speaking. And so I ran in District 2 in Gwinnett, which is a very highly, the area that I'm in is primarily Republican area, is very much more of that in this area. So a lot of people didn't think that I would have a chance, but I took a chance. And it gave me an opportunity to really experience the voting and being a participant in this, as opposed to being on the other side where I vote. I've always voted from the time I could vote, but not deeply involved in politics, so to speak. So it gave me that opportunity to really see that other side. And one of the things I learned when I went around campaigning is how much there was a need to educate the voters. There are a lot of things that our voters just did not know. They don't really get involved until maybe it's almost just time to vote. And then it's like, well, who do I vote for? Who are you? And the flyers and all the advertisement guides them to vote. But it really gave me a chance to really immerse myself among people who were the voters. And I did not win, but I came very close to winning. In fact, it was so close, I had a recount, and there was only, out of the 60,000 votes between the two candidates, I only lost by 118 votes. And when you break it up into all of the different precincts, you know, that can average maybe only 2 people, 2 households in any particular precinct. So I share that because it's really a good perspective in having, when I speak to people in sharing the importance of voting and how your vote does matter and your vote does count. I know that we have spent as a people, a lot of times maybe so disenfranchised and feeling like the vote doesn't count. You vote these people in and maybe things don't change. So it's easy to get discouraged and to not even believe in the system anymore. But I think, and I have seen, and we all have seen this last cycle, how much that has changed. And the power of that vote has been demonstrated. And I think that people have embraced it and really see and know and believe through all of what has occurred, all of the suppression that's always occurred, that we are still able to actually do this. And I think that momentum needs to continue. And Representative Anderson, you spoke a lot about your strategies because you're coming against so much. That's exactly the definition of suppression, because suppression is a strategy. That's just not something arbitrary. That's not something, oh, well, we didn't know we were doing it. It is a true strategy used to influence outcomes of an election. And the whole strategy is to discourage specific groups. It's targeted groups. And you mentioned those targets. The targeted groups are people of color. They're students, students who are away in college, students who are just learning to vote, just turning 18, the elderly, very much targeted, and then people with disabilities. That's a huge chunk of a target. So suppression is a strategy, and it is deliberately used and has been used for years. All of the time that I can even remember when I started on the board of elections, I remember calling my dad and talking to him, and I asked him, I just said, tell me the first time you voted. He's 88 now. And he said he could remember the first time he voted. He was in his uniform. He was in the military. He was young. And I came from a small town in South Carolina. And he said he could remember standing in that line forever and finally getting there. He was very few of anybody voting. And he was asked to recite the preamble of the Constitution. And he did, because he said he knew that was coming. And when I read back and I look at things like some of the ridiculous questions that used to ask, how high is up? How many jelly beans are in a jar? Paying poll taxes. That may seem so long ago, but it's still within our lifetime. Ask somebody old enough, they can tell you. And here we are still today fighting voter suppression. It's just in a new form, in different forms. And it's shrouded in now their discussions about voter fraud, which has been proven over and over and over and over again with every kind of investigation. How many times did Georgia count? Over and over? There is no voter fraud on any large scale that would change the outcomes of anything. So it's shrouded in these pretense of things like that, when really they might as well just say, oh, we're trying to suppress Black people from voting, or we're trying to suppress the disabled and students from voting, because that is truly what it is. So I really am so thankful for people like Representative Taylor and Anderson and others that I may not know in this group, but all of our representatives who are up against a lot, having to fight to continue to allow people just that, the right. It used to be a privilege when it was white males who own property, but it is a right that we all have. That is the greatest thing that we could do to change the circumstances in which we live that impacts our lives. The one thing I could share well, let me just back up. I know maybe you've read and heard in the newspaper, the chair of the Gwinnett Board of Registration and Elections, the one that I'm sitting on now, just a couple of months ago, I don't even know if it's last month, stated exactly what we're talking about. And of course, there was outrage, Alice Olenek, it's her name. There was outrage in our community about what was said and stating all of these things that you were talking about now, the no excuse absentee voting, banning drop boxes, requiring IDs, extra IDs. You know, why would you need an ID to get an application? You know, the applications last time were just sent out to everyone. Only one's going to be processed, you know? So, things like, we recently even had challenges that was brought to our board with thousands of names on it that they wanted to challenge. That was dismissed. And then they had another one just recently of 288 names where they were contesting that the people didn't really live in Gwinnett, that they had another address. So what they had done had pulled names from the national, what is it? When you move, it's just when you move, you fill out the form that you've moved. I forgot what the national organization is, but they just pull names from there because you can have two addresses. So we would have had to have a hearing individually on 288 people that they were bringing to challenge.
Yeah, that is unbelievable,
Right.
Unbelievable. And this just speaks to the importance of people being involved, not just on the state level, but on the local level, because there are a lot of changes that are being imposed. So thank you so much. And we'll definitely hear more from you, Dr. Taylor. And I just love saying the last name Taylor.
All over the place, isn't it? Thank you.
So last but not least, I would love to introduce Ms. Theresa Harden. Hardy, excuse me, and she's the president of the DeKalb County branch of the NAACP, which was established in 1955 and is DeKalb County's oldest nonprofit civil rights organization. Hardy is a Silver Lifetime member of the NAACP, but you certainly could not tell that by looking at her, DeKalb branch, and served as the first vice president. She's also the state treasurer of the Georgia NAACP, which has had an unbroken presence in Georgia since 1917. What history. She's an active member of the DeKalb Democrats Policy Committee and serves on several committees, including redistricting and voting rights committees. In addition to her commitment to the NAACP, Hardy also serves in many community organizations, is also a member of the Atlanta Black Chamber of Commerce and a member of the Salem Bible Church, where she serves on the Christian Education Ministry and Political Action Ministry. And thank you so much for your service. Without further ado, Ms. Theresa Hardy.
Wow. Well, thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm blessed to be a part of this panel discussion with my good friends, Ms. Representative Taylor and Senator Tanya Anderson, along with my AME family. No, I'm not an AME, but I grew up Methodist and Baptist at the same time. And I've been just strong in my Christian faith. So to be along other Christians is my duty in service. I really appreciate having this format today. I do have our first vice president on as well, and our political action chair, Nadine Ali and Lance Hammonds are on as well. I don't do this work by myself. So, but I wanted to make sure that we had a face in the discussion tonight. As it relates to voter suppression, NAACP is real simple. As Senator Anderson and Representative Taylor stated, we work together with them with these bills. We already knew ahead of time that this was going to happen. After making a change of Georgia, we knew things were just going to make it harder for us. But because we are who we are, we're up for the fight. They're not going to win. That's one of the things that we can actually assure you. These bills are just, I forgot we on the Christian channel, so I can't say them other words, Tanya. but this is some BS, basically, that we're seeing, to have 40 bills to come out to suppress what was actually a good representation of what we got and what we can do in Georgia says a lot about Georgia. But it also allows for us as people to understand that if anyone will go through all those ranks to create 40 plus bills, know that we have the power to do what is endured for the state of Georgia, and we have to do it. So I know that Senator Anderson is working with us on the NAACP to make sure we do good policy, and we're going to stop bad policy. So that's what we are going to do. When it comes to voting, it's simple. The easier you make it, the better for us. If you don't make it easy, we will be there to fight to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to make sure that they have the right to go to the voting, right? Make sure that we don't decrease anything as it relates to early voting. Make sure that the process for absentee ballot don't change. We're going to make sure that the voting ID was crazy when we come up with it before. It just reminds me of the count, the number of jelly beans in the jar kind of tactics. So it just lets us know that even though we're in the United States of America, they still don't want things to be free for all of us. And until everyone is free, none of us is free. And so we have to continue to fight for what is right. The struggle is real, and I'm ready to continue that fight. So if there's any questions for me, I will go in. I'm not going to repeat what has already been done. They know we are all in supportive. That's the biggest thing that I want us to share in tonight too. The collaboration, bringing in the church, the business, the elected officials, the civic organizations, the social organizations. We have to stand together. We cannot do this divided at all. Even if you don't have your issue on the line, you need to support the massive to do what's right. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you so much. And that was extremely powerful. Definitely a clarion call to all of us. So at this time, we're going to take some questions. So I'll take a look at the questions that we have so far. But I do want to refer my first question to Senator Anderson. You mentioned that the hearings are being held at 7 a.m. Now, are these hearings being streamed?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. The Senate, there's a subcommittee, ethics subcommittee, that has met a couple of times, and these bills are going through the ethics committee. Can you imagine? Bills that are suppressing the vote going through the ethics committee. How unethical is that? So yes, ma'am, they are streamed live. And I don't know if I can put it in the chat, but if you go to the Georgia General Assembly website, you can click on committees, either Senate or House. Once you find committees, you can, it tells you if there's a committee happening or the times of the committee that they're meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
You can watch it. You can watch it live stream.
And State Representative Taylor, the bills just seem to be growing and growing and growing. First it was 8, now it's at 41. How can someone keep track of this information so that they can see what's happening and not be behind? Is there a way to access this information?
Yes, absolutely. And it goes right back to what Senator Anderson was saying. You can watch it and streamline, and you can go back and watch it. Even if you didn't get up at 7 o'clock and watch it live, you can go back. And I just put the website in the chat. Is www.legis.georgia.gov. And you can go, and you can actually go in there and just type in election bills, and it'll bring up as many of those bills that you're interested in doing and that you're interested in reading over, or any topic. You can go in there and click, there you go, and click on it so that you'll be able to have access to that. And then they have the videos of our chambers, videos of each chamber, the House and the Senate. So you have access to everything that's going on on the floor on a daily basis while we are in session.
Okay, great. And how often is this updated? Right away, or does it take a couple of days?
No, it's pretty real
Right
time.
away.
Yeah, it's real time. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It's
thank
there.
you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's definitely a question I'm sure people are wondering about.
Miss Marlene, if I may, you can
Yeah.
also find out the members who are on that committee.
Mm-hmm.
And most people want to know, how do I get in touch with them? You can email, you can call. It's the easiest way to tell them to, all those 9,000 emails we received when they lost the election, you can do the same thing. Our emails were inundated with just 200 to 300 emails per day about stop the steal, election fraud, all the crazy drama. And so you can, and it came to all 256 and 180, all 236 legislators. Everybody got it. So
We're still getting it.
That's right. And so you can go on and find out who's on the committee, find out who's the committee chair, and demand that, they stop the unethical behavior that is passing through the ethics committee.
Thank you.
And even further on that, Ms. Marlene, you can also, somebody asked me today, how do I get involved? That first read and that second read, and then you'll know after that second read that it's headed toward committee. And that's when you want to organize and get your people to do your calling and your emailing, because that is where I don't see any other way around this except pulling in the voters. There is no way we're going to be able to magically outnumber them in votes or convince them in a persuasive manner to see the truth, and how obnoxious all of this is. So the only way that we can actually make something happen is that we make this become like gossip. We got to get it out there, and we got to make sure that all the people know it, and we just got to raise some hell. That's the bottom line. We just got to go do what we got to do. Pull up our sleeves and make it known that we're not laying down on this one, because they are so disrespectful. They're so in your face with it down there. And I'm not used to that. So it's really a problem for me. So again, all I can say is that if we don't organize in the communities, if we don't get the voters involved in even this aspect, and on that note, I have to say that we need to do that anyway, because we need to stop waiting to every election cycle to organize for the election. If we keep it going from one election to the other, the consistency, the continuity, then we're in place when we're where we're supposed to be when we're needed to be there. This is a perfect opportunity for us to get as many voices out there to speak up, and even of both parties, because even they don't even realize that you're actually disenfranchising your own voters as well with these crazy bills. So if we don't get the people involved, we can't do it. That's just about line. We're outnumbered. Period.
Yes.
Both chambers.
Thank you so much. So that's definitely a call to action. We want to make sure when everyone is off this off Facebook, off this virtual space that we're in, they have an assignment to do. So I'll
say, Miss Marlene, if I may add, as soon as you find out that the bill has been dropped or is read, don't wait for second read. go after it as soon as it's read so it can get stopped before, committee. In committee is where you want to stop it, because once it gets to the floor, that's where, you really, it's almost, you either came in to win or you gonna lose. So the first read, as soon as it's dropped, first read, go after it. Go after the author, go after the committee members, go after the committee chair. And that's where you want to stop it. You don't want it to get right.
So timing is very important.
Right. No traction. No traction on the bill.
So my next question is for Dr. Taylor. Then after that, we will hear from President Hardy. So Dr. Taylor, can you tell us a little bit more about the Board of Voter Registration and Elections? Are the members elected? Are they appointed? How long do they serve? Do they represent a party? Are they nonpartisan? Because not everyone understands how that works.
Sure. So first and foremost, they are appointed. And the way it's set up here, there are 5 members on the board. 2 are appointed by the Republican Party, and 2 are appointed by the Democratic Party. And then those 4 members actually choose one at-large member. That person is generally, I don't know, maybe they're independent, so to speak, but I think they look a lot at the records. We actually have just gone through that. We have we couldn't decide between the 4. And so the Superior Court judge, it goes all the way up to the Superior Court judge, and they appoint that person, but with the recommendation of submitted names to him. What we were looking at doing, because Gwinnett is highly diverse and we have a large Hispanic population, we were seeking to have a Hispanic representation, and so that's just happening, but that is how it is determined. And each member is served for 2 years at a time. And then each year is reappointments. So
thank you. So the next question is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. That's going to vary from county to county. I just want you to know that that's not a standard practice in the state. That's county.
Okay, so that's good to know. So thank you for adding that.
On that, Marlene, I'm sorry. I know that it has been discussions now, and I don't know whether, was that one of the bills that you were talking about where they were looking at having state boards, the state board to determine for
county commissioners.
Yeah, so I think it's right now, that's how it is in Gwinnett, that's how it's determined. But I think that is also maybe one of the things that they're looking at wanting to change, rather than have appointments by each party, to actually have that changed and they are either appointed by the state level. So
thank you. So I have one more question, and that's for President Hardy. And then we will take questions from the virtual audience. Is the NAACP, do they have any lawsuits that are being filed right now?
Yes. I'm laughing because I'm like, how many? So let me say this though. Yes, that's to answer your question is yes. But what we have to do as a civil rights organization, because a lot of people see us as suing people and putting our litigation out. We're an advocacy group. So we're along the way with our elected officials, the ones that are on the same page with us, right? Senator Anderson and Representative Taylor. So when the civil rights organization like NAACP gets involved, it's really at a really its impact, the impact is really large. And I just wanted to say that to make sure. But what we have been successful in is understanding how powerful we can be at the grassroots level and making changes there. And I just wanted to kind of put that out there because I know Ms. Taylor was talking about the structure that we have in DeKalb, our Superior Court judge, actually our chief judge, actually makes the appointment for our 5th person. And it is supposedly independent. So that's important to us. We also, what we've been trying to do is integrate our advocacy efforts so that we can actually keep things local. So when we're talking about state control, we don't want state control to come into DeKalb County. It's bad enough that our Board of Voter Registration Office is tied to the Secretary of State with those ridiculous guidelines that they have that don't allow for us to do anything. But once we've learned that on the local level, I think that's what we've been empowered to do things a little different, to get things done, to make sure that we are supporting our citizens, to make sure that they have the right to go to vote and when to go vote, and kind of educate them along the way. When we think about these mobile voting units, there's nothing in no policy say you can't do these things. And that's what I get so mad about some of the legislators putting in things and you just making everything be so legislative. Some things you just need to do right. Okay, the thing is we want access to make sure that we're able to go to the polls and vote our own interests. And what's wrong with that? So putting all these what they call controls and law and order and all this stuff is just, a bunch of crap that we need to not, dwell in so much, but push to do what is right for our people and support our elected officials as they are down there, pulling out all their hair, right, to make sure that they represent our people. So it's just incumbent upon the people to support even the NAACP in our efforts. Our efforts is local civil rights advocacy as it relates to what's going on. And I encourage everyone to join their local NAACP so that we can actually do what someone was saying about collaboration and organizing and mobilizing. We cannot wait to the next election. When the election is done on November, like we did November 3rd, the work continues, and we as an advocacy group and church leaders, businesses have to continue to advocate to make sure that the legislation that we put in place is right for us so that we know who we should vote for the next time as it relates to elections. I just want to make sure that we're encouraged to do these call to actions. And I thought Senator Anderson was talking about how we have to write to the people. Learn how to write simple things. I don't like it. I don't want it. Because I think we try to get so proper and
yes,
and it's just too much. Nobody reads those long emails. Just send the thing says, stop messing with our voting rights. I don't want you to do that. So the NAACP, along with other civic organizations, is going to be calling out call to actions, and we do that with the support of our elected officials. And we want everybody who is a member of the NAACP, if you're not, join, because you need to be a member of the organization in order to know what to do. It's to do all these extra little individual things. If we don't come together as a collaborative group, we will be divided. And we need to be united, especially.
That's right, because that's where our strength is going to be, in our unity. Absolutely. So, Sister Carol James, you have a question?
Yes, thank you very much, Sister Marlene. And this may be for the panel at large, anyone who wants to take this question, but it's one that's been on my mind for a very long time. The Republicans have had a 5 to 10 year strategy, even longer, in terms of what they have been doing, what they continue to do. And I know we've been talking about the local level and some strategies. Representative Rhonda Taylor mentioned, mobilizing people to do some things. But my question is, do the Democrats, have we, because we have a state Democratic Party, have we thought about what kind of strategy we should have for the long term? This cannot be, I totally agree with the fact that you just can't do one election. We have to even get ready for Reverend Warnock in 2 years to run again. My question is, what is the long haul plan? Because we need to have one if we are going to make anything happen. I mean, it's just been something that's been kind of troubling me. So
Me too.
I'm throwing it to y'all because
Okay.
I'm not in, but I'm willing to help.
That's what I need to hear, Miss Carol, because folks talk all day, but unless you are involved in your local Democratic Party, you got to start there, because the state gives oversight to what you have on the local level. And I'm not saying oversight in a bad way. I'm saying they have to partner with what you have on the ground. If you don't have a strong local party, the state is there to assist. And of course, we need a strategy statewide. But if we have the strategy statewide and you don't have a good local chapter combination, then it's gonna fall through anyway. They can't come from the state to your district or to your county to be the state party. So I don't know what county you're affiliated with or where. It doesn't matter at this point. I'm just gonna say, get involved at your local Democratic Party level, because the state can only, it's like it can only do so much. You have to give them something to work with. And so if you don't have a strong local party, I can promise you, I represent 3 counties, and I can tell you which one's gonna do the work and which ones won't. I can tell you which ones have great leadership and which ones don't. But my job is to show up and support, be a member of all of the county parties, show up and support and encourage them to build a forge and to be strong, so that the state party, whenever the plan is rolled out, that they'll know what to do and how to implement it. Because there's only so much that, and I'm not making excuses, because there has been for years a lack of leadership until we just got Senator Nikema Williams. Well, now she's Congresswoman. There was a lack of leadership. There was a lack of support for certain people. The word on the street was certain people. So it wasn't good. It wasn't good. It didn't happen overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. But I will say, get involved in your local party, because that's where the strength is. Each county has one. That's where the strength is. And that's how you build. That's how you could see the numbers flipping and turning and people, counties turning from red to blue. And, because everybody, all hands were on deck. And when it's a well-oiled machine, when you have your poll watchers and your leadership and your poll watchers and folks who volunteers to make phone calls and you partner with, because you may not be able to go out, but you can make a phone call. You stay on the phone with your friends longer than you do calling somebody to go vote. So we're all guilty of that. But we can do more in our local chapters, so that and I don't think, Miss Carol, that I don't hold the state party accountable. Yes, ma'am, I do. Yes, ma'am, I do. With all my might, I do. So everybody doing their part. It's what, when we get to 2 years, before we even get to 2 years, the plan is there. All I can tell you is that, I'm not saying it's a secret, but just do your part on the local level. And what happened on November the 3rd will happen again. What happened on January 5th will happen again. You may not be able to see it, but you can't see God, but you believe him. You feel him. You see him in the wind and in the rain, but you can't see him in person, in the flesh. So just trust that the process is in place. Now, I will hold them accountable. I promise you. Everything you said tonight, I'm taking it back to them. I'm taking it back to them to get it done. I can promise you, Miss Carol. 2 years from now will be a gubernatorial race. So the turnout is going to be over the top, just like it was in January and in November.
And Miss Carol, you're in DeKalb. You have one of the strongest parties.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're the part, and that county did the blue thing for us. So
yes, ma'am.
They're ready for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So we're hearing, join your local party, join the NAACP, get involved, keep it moving, Do not become complacent. So for the sake of time, let's just take one more question from our virtual audience members. Is there a question that someone would like to unmute themselves and ask? Okay, so I'm sure Sister Cheryl Davenport Dozier is going to do an excellent closing and wrapping it up for us. So thank you so much. This was so informative, very engaging, and thank you, sisters, for everything that you're doing. You're truly on the front line fighting the good fight. So we definitely respect you, and just keep it powerful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Marlene Taylor Crawford, for a wonderful job of moderating. This has been a phenomenal panel. This has been awesome. I am going to ask my sister, Sister Rhonda Taylor, in her capacity as being the president of the Antioch AME Church's Social Action Commission, to just say a couple of words as to why this is. She's the president of our Atlanta East District. She's the counterpart to Sister Carol James, who is the Atlanta East District president on the lay side. And we have Sister Rhonda Taylor as the Atlanta East District Social Action Commission. This is what the AME Church is all about. It's about us stepping up. We are to speak up. We are to stand up. And we are to make sure that we silence those that are trying to silence us. So we have action to take. Sister Rhonda Taylor, give us a few closing remarks, please.
Get ready, get ready, get ready. We will be doing some training for AME, the AED churches. That's 26 that I have. And any others that want to join us, get ready, get ready, get ready. By the end of next week, we will have a mobilization plan. We'll be doing another Zoom training to show you how you can get involved and make sure that our voices are heard. That's a definite.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Senator Anderson, I have watched you since you were a mayor, go on to the state legislature, become the senator, now the president of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus. We got to give a shout out to your former predecessor, our own representative, Reverend Dr. Karen Bennett, who was with us a couple of months ago doing the same panel. So we are just so glad to see you, another sister, follow in leadership. But say a word about the other issue we have is redistricting.
Yes.
Because that is a critical issue. We'll bring you back. We need to have that. We'll have to have that one probably in March. Well, y'all are going to be finished in March. What everybody doesn't understand, we have a short time period here. The clock is ticking. I'm going to ask Brother Tony to put up on the screen where people can see the numbers and the names of people they need to start talking to. But just say a word about what else. It's not just trying to silence us from the vote. They're trying to change the lines so that we won't have an opportunity to win in elections. So please, Senator Anderson.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Dozier. That is a great point. There is, so right now, we'll be done in March, but we will have a special session for redistricting. And because the census numbers, the census was extended, the numbers are, have coming in late. And so what we would normally do in August is looks like we're going to do in October. But yes, we have the redistricting to push back on. We have a plan. The GLBC has a plan to approach the Department of Justice, to approach our federal congressional district, our congressional delegation. And at the end of the day, they can't gerrymander the entire state, but we do have to be watchful, because what happened before is they drew senators in the same district and Democrat representatives in the same district to eliminate one of the two. And so that is what we are up against. But our goal is to make sure that we are in touch with the Department of Justice so that justice will be served, and that there will be some input from the Biden administration. I'll just go there as to restrict a lot of the possibilities.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
All right. Is there a Black History event that GLBC is doing? Do you want to give a shout out?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Our normal Heritage Dinner is on the last Thursday of the month of February. But because of COVID restrictions, we are going to have that celebration next Wednesday. We are going to live stream it. And glbc.org is our, Sister Ron, if you don't mind putting that in the chat, glbc.org is our website. There will be a link so that you can join us live stream. It will be a sister panel like we had tonight. Win with Black Women, Joteka Edie, Nsé Ufot, Tasha Brown. It's a wonderful, wonderful, powerful woman, Black woman layout. And so we are ready to celebrate. And then next year, this fall, we'll have our conference. September, we're going to move it back just because we may be a little bit more safe. Move our conference to the fall, and our Heritage Dinner will be in September, October. And then we'll give you the save the date for our February 2022 GLBC Heritage Dinner.
All right, so I encourage everybody, go to the glbc.org website. You can join. So I already knew about these events because I have joined. I'm a member. I am a member, President Hardy. My dues should have been transferred from Savannah NAACP to DeKalb. So check and make sure you're getting I think I'm a Gold Life subscribing. Make sure you're getting these. I've been a member of NAACP since the youth days and ran AXO in Westchester. So we have work to do. What time is it? It is time for us to stand up and speak up and let our voices be heard. We cannot stop now. Where do we go from here? We keep marching, we keep stomping, we keep writing letters, but we don't let anybody silence us. I have a 101-year-old auntie, and I too am a 5th or 6th generation AME, and my aunt said she remembers when she couldn't vote. She remembers when she first voted. We cannot allow them to stop our rights to vote. But we can't get lazy. The list, the names are going up, but just go to Fair Fight's website. You're going to have all of the information on there. Our own sister Stacey Abrams does a phenomenal job. If you're not a member of Fair Fight, you should have got it in your email. You should have this information. Don't hesitate to let any of us know. Contact our churches if you need help. So we are going to ask Reverend Vandy Simmons to come back. He is going to close us out with a benediction. President Theresa Hardy, you want to give some closing remarks? I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Well, no, I just didn't want you to leave without knowing that we do have a Black History program as well.
Oh, you sure do.
We are doing it a little different, but it's going to be more powerful. We're asking for 112 youth to participate in our Black History program. Why? NAACP is 112 years old. We just had our Founders Day, and we want them to actually be in the virtual setting for our Black History program. What we're going to do is provide them Black history as it relates to DeKalb County, and they are going to be the ones who say those one-liner statements so that they can actually understand where we come from, so they understand where they are going. We want 65 youth to actually participate in the actual program, but 112 to be in the actual virtual setting. 65 is the number of years that NAACP DeKalb was chartered, and we want to make sure that this is all significant in understanding how far we got to go. We're still doing first Black people in a predominant Black county. That's a problem. So we want to make sure that we understand why we need to make sure that that representation as it relates to redistricting and the policies that are being put forth to be understood, to why we have to have people that look like us in the position and how we do and go along to elect them and keep them there until we get what we need. So I just want to make sure that people understand on 2/27, we having a Black History program that's going to be dynamic and empowered by our youth. And we're looking forward to all of you being a part of that. Thank you again for having us.
Thank you so much. And let me just say, one of them, with all of the bills, they all are critical. But the fact that they want to stop the automatic registration at the Department of Motor Vehicles, I mean, that is, not only does that hurt us, they're willing to jeopardize just not having people. That is the most progressive that we do. And to eliminate that that's when people stoop to the lowest levels to suppress our vote. We can let it happen. We cannot. So let us not just sit back and just shake our heads. Let's get our pens and paper out. Put that list back up for me, Brother Tony, while and we will leave it up for a few seconds after the benediction. Again, I want to thank our pastor, Reverend Will Thomas Jr. I want to thank our Bishop, Reginald T. Jackson, and I want to thank our social action committees, our lay organization, all of those who are on the virtual audience, our class leaders, and everyone who has joined us this evening. And we have to keep doing this. There's lots of issues that we need to continue to talk about. So Reverend Simmons, thank you so much. And if you will close us out.
All right. Let us pray. Gracious God, we do thank you again for tonight. Oh God, we thank you for all the participants, all the players. And oh God, we just pray that you would help us to go forward, oh God, and to bringing others aboard and continuing the good fight of faith, and the good fight of justice. Help us, oh God, not to get weary in doing good. For in due season, if we faint not, we shall reap a harvest. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
Hannah's list will stay with us for just a minute. It will. Again, I thank everybody who has joined us this evening. Have a good night. Have a good week.
Thank you, everyone.